Hello and welcome to FECTV.com with myself, Noel Byrne. Joining me in studio tonight is Mr. Alan Noonan. And on tonight's edition of Your Call, we are discussing cyberbullying. If you do want to get in contact with your thoughts and opinions, you can do so via social media. On Twitter, we are at FECTV, and also on Facebook as well, FECTV, Facebook.com/FECTV, the website to go to there. Joining us via Skype is Brendan Smith, who is the Education Outreach Officer from the Digital Enterprise Research Institute at the NUI of Galway. Quite the mouthful, Brendan. Thanks a million for joining us this evening.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I suppose the first question for you, Brendan, is 2012 seemed to be a particularly bad year in terms of cyberbullying, with a number of suicides reported. Is it a case that cyberbullying is on the rise, or is it just that the media is now reporting it more?
Yeah, in my opinion, cyberbullying per se has not risen over the last few months, but unfortunately and tragically, we've had the number of deaths, suicides related to cyberbullying, and that really has focused people's minds, parents, schools, and particularly the government. So I think the media, the publicity that has been generated by that has, even though it was tragic circumstances, has had a positive outcome. And you can see recently the government report that came out yesterday, and the whole issue of bullying really grew out of that awareness that something had to actually be done, you know. So cyberbullying just didn't spike in the last few months, no way. But positive action had to be taken because of those deaths, and that's what's happening now.
Parts of this document published by Minister Rory Quinn during the week, the Action Plan on Bullying, proposed that schools need to introduce actual regulation guiding their policy on cyberbullying and bullying online, things like that, by November, and also that they create a logbook of bullying incidences. Does this, like the document as a whole, do you think it's a positive step, or is it just simply window dressing?
No, I think it's definitely a step forward. The whole idea of logging and reporting is excellent. The discussion too within the paper about having awareness among the different sectors of the school, parents, students and teachers themselves is very, very good. I think we'd have to tighten up in terms of what those specific areas are of activity. For instance, I would recommend that there be a minimum annual amount of workshops to the schools, children, to the students, to the teachers, and also to the parents, that this has to be part of on an ongoing basis, because technologies are changing constantly. We're talking about Ask.fm now. 6 months ago, nobody heard about it. Who knows what's coming around the corner? So it has to be organic, it has to be flowing, it has to be an awareness that everybody within the school community, from the parents downwards, has to be involved in this process. So it definitely is a step forward without any hesitation.
There was an interesting study in the later half of last year, around November I think it was, from NUI Maynooth, and they said that around 17% of students are victims of cyberbullying. Now, you've been in a number of schools throughout the west of Ireland. Would you say that figure is about right, or would you think it's higher from what you've learned?
In 70% in terms of suffering from cyberbullying?
17 have suffered from it, yeah.
Definitely. The thing about it is, it's open season. It's a young person's paradise in some ways, and it's in many ways, because of that, it's totally unregulated. So people can say and do things they feel on the web that they couldn't do in the real world because it's totally unmonitored, you know. And sometimes it can start off as a little bit of banter, a little bit of conversation between two people, one person condemning another person because he or she is a useless sports person or whatever, yeah. And that banter, to some of the people involved, is exactly that, just a bit of banter conversation. But to others, it definitely is something a lot more. It is bullying, you know, and that's where the dividing line can be very, very thin. So that type of statistic certainly doesn't surprise me, actually.
In a way, Brendan, does the advent of online bullying, and I know that a lot of people talk about the anonymity on the internet, but in fact, the fact that we see the sort of traces of internet, like people leave messages, they leave phone records of what they've done, does this in fact sort of open up a world that had before almost been swept under the rug and maybe ignored as a cause of depression, maybe bullying? Are we in fact not just sort of witnessing the advent of cyberbullying, but also in fact seeing bullying for the first time in many ways?
Yeah, sorry, the line was weak there. You couldn't repeat that for me. I lost
yeah, sorry, Brendan. I was kind of saying that maybe as well as the attention being drawn to bullying by what's going on with cyberbullying, but we also see the sort of traces of bullying left behind, like messages, phone logs, Facebook posts, things like that. And in fact, is this kind of revealing a world that we had almost ignored for an awful long time in a lot of regards, that now we can actually see what's going on, and you know that this sort of bullying would have led to depression, suicide before, but might actually just have been ignored in the past?
Yeah, possibly true. There's no doubt about it that younger people that I talk to, what really hurts them more, they feel, in terms of this type of bullying, is that it's up there. It's not just a comment, somebody being effed out of, and it goes in one ear out the other. It's actually up there in lights. And not just the person that actually is experienced becoming the victim, everybody else that can around them can actually see it, and they feel so humiliated and oftentimes so isolated. To give an example, as I say, if I'm going into school and I check my Facebook account and I see somebody has written in my timeline that Brendan Smith is a total idiot, you know, it's not just Brendan Smith that actually sees that. It's my friends as well, and then I get 16 likes saying from my so-called friends that 16 people agree with that. That is the isolation factor emphasized. That is the publicity around it emphasized. Yeah, and obviously it does lead to a lot of issues of mental health. There's no doubt about it, because there was a recent study done there by Professor James Lucy from St. Patrick's Hospital, and towards the end of September it was published in the Examiner newspaper, and it said that 80% of young people that have visited the Independent Mental Health Service have actually suffered cyberbullying. It actually hasn't been in many cases the catalyst, but it certainly has aggravated that. People are at a low ebb, they are maybe that way inclined or very sad in their lives at the time, and that type of comment they're being picked on definitely emphasizes and isolates them a lot more. And as you say, it's seen by all, not just by one.
I suppose a lot of people watching this programme tonight might be wondering, especially parents, is there anything they can do or look out for, maybe to curb the chances of their child being a victim of cyberbullying? An awful lot. The important thing is parents should not sit in the fence and talk about things like online social media from the outside looking in. They should be on the inside looking out, because time and time again I come across young people that didn't report cyberbullying, and I asked them why haven't they reported. They said, oh, mom and dad, they don't have a clue about Ask.fm or Twitter or Facebook. Why bother going to them, because they can't help me, or if I do go to them they'll overreact and they'll close down my internet connectivity altogether, you know. And then thirdly, of course, is the obvious one from a bully: you're going to be blackmailed if you report it. So the parents, more than ever before, they have to take responsibility as parents and get involved in their children's lives. Don't overreact. Share the web with them. Show them issues like where they can be bullied anonymously, say in environments like Ask.fm. Show them that they understand the Facebook and other online social media. Show them that they're members themselves. Become friends of them. And therefore, when the going gets tough, when their own child is actually suffering, he or she will turn to them because they feel more confidence in doing so. So more than ever before, parents have to stand up to the plate and be counted. The problem with technology in the last few decades is changing at a ginormous rate, and it's becoming a younger person's game, and the older people feel isolated. So rather than accept that as part of life, they should make the effort to become involved in their online social media and find out what their children is doing, share with them, show them what the problems are. Even simple little things like if somebody's been bullied, a remark has been made by them, or a photograph it turns up about them that isn't acceptable, it's important that the children save that, or the young people save that, because it could be used in evidence later rather than just get rid of it. They should be shown how you can capture a photograph, a screen grab, and actually save it itself. Little issues like that. But if parents stand away, do the ostrich thing, bury their heads in the sand, their children are going to feel more and more isolated. And this technology is changing at a faster pace. But I have to put in the context, online social media is part of everyday life for particularly
for young people. It should not be isolated from them. You cannot stop the medium. The medium is the technology at the moment, online technology. They should accept it and educate them and create an awareness, and not just for themselves, but also to look out for their friends and to teach respect for more than for other people. Because I notice for younger people, the language can be a lot more aggressive because it is a younger person's game. They feel it's unmonitored. Who's going to follow up? And the important thing today, thankfully, particularly in the last 6 months, people are being prosecuted, people are being tracked down, people do leave electronic trail. And people normally that bully think they're going to get away with it. And that was the case maybe 6 months ago, a year ago. Now the law is becoming more actively enforced. So I go around schools with the guards, and we work together on this whole issue.
That's interesting, Brendan, because just to comment on what you said, I suppose some people would flippantly reply that, you know, just turn off the computer or just log out of Facebook to stop the bullying. But obviously what you've said there is very interesting, that in fact the parents should get involved online rather than retreating from the online world.
Yeah, definitely. It's
absolutely, yeah.
It's a tough one for parents, considering, you know, you have, we'll say with Facebook, if their son or daughter adds them, do you think some users of Facebook might set up an alternative account that, you know, their parents can see one life of their child and then their real life is on this alternate page?
Absolutely. And look, young people will do that eventually. There's absolutely no doubt. Like even from my generations, long ago, there are certain things you wanted to have to yourself. And certainly when you go on in your teenhood, you certainly don't want your parents looking over your shoulder, going out with you virtually or whatever way you want to describe it. And of course, but if you get them at the right age, in the pre-teen, and don't forget, the bullying doesn't start at the second level or in the teen. If you go into any 5th or 6th year in primary, and oftentimes into 4th class in the primary sector, the majority of younger people are actually on some type of social media. And if you share it with them, then if you teach them about the consequences of the bullying remark that they may make, about the importance of reporting, saving those, you will be holding their hand at that particular period. And obviously you've created the infrastructure and the support and the guidance and so on. And by the time they're 15 and 16, they'll be doing their own independent presence on online social media. But at that stage, you actually had laid the foundations. But putting it into historical context, 160 years ago, there was a huge development in communications technology, and that was the self-adhesive stamp with Queen Victoria on it. Parents went absolutely ballistic in Britain when that came out, because now they were complaining that young people were writing to each other and anonymously dropping into a letterbox rather than have to give to the parents. And they were saying, what is the world coming to if young people, unsupervised, are writing to each other? And then when the phone was developed by Alexander Graham Bell in 1876 and became popular in homes, middle-class homes, upwards in 100 years ago, parents were complaining that their son and daughter, 12 years of age, could be talking to a complete stranger in the house. Likewise, with the development of the radio, and particularly the transistor radio, young people in the 50s could escape from their parents, didn't have to plug the radio into the wall, could listen to it up a field or on a beach on a battery, dry battery, and listen to the devil's music, rock and roll, and Elvis Presley. So every generation, you older people have been scared of what younger people have been coming up with. We're still here in spite of all that. If you give them the foundations and support when they most need it, because remember, when you're only 11 or 12, you're only finding out, you're making friends with people that you don't know because they're friends of friends of a friend. Those people could pretend to be 12 when in fact they're maybe 59 years of age. They could pretend to be a female when in fact it could be male. So it's always about educating them about a critical awareness, you know. And if you get the grounding right when they're at a certain age, you'll have to cut the umbilical cord sometime. But at least you've given them a healthy, critical attitude towards the web, respect for others, the importance of reporting, all of that, yeah.
I suppose one of my final questions is, in terms of your experience and having gone around to a number of schools, have you found that parents are kind of frightened, maybe for want of a better term, of social media sites like Facebook and Twitter, because it may seem like it's an awful lot for them to take in?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, everybody fears the unknown and everybody reads the shock headlines and only sees the bad side. 99.9% of people that use the web, you know, most times get fantastic feedback. As you say, the bullying is definitely it's large, but they're not being bullied by everybody. So they don't overreact. They guide them, go through them, the importance of filters themselves. And Facebook, yeah, I mean, that's popular. As I say, Ask.fm is increasing. Others are coming around the corner like Tumblr. There will always be those new technologies. They have to keep their finger on the pulse. They have to share them. And even things like, even stuff like Mushy Monsters, it can be the most innocent type of gaming environment. You'd be amazed about the amount of parents that will allow that to be in a bedroom. Remember, it's an interactive gaming. I was just at a school last week where we were talking about, you know, if your 10-year-old, 9-year-old daughter is playing it on Mushy Monsters, the person at the other end, maybe not their same age, may not even be their same sex. And one woman stood up and she says, yeah, I discovered that my 9-year-old daughter was playing Mushy Monsters in her bedroom with a 45-year-old man, you know, once they did a little bit of research. So they're the type of things that they have to, you know, work with, understand. And it does take a lot of courage for an older person to say to them, oh my God, I have to learn all of these. Yes, they do. You have to stand up to the plate and be counted. And at the end of the day, you yourself will get so many benefits. I mean, you don't have to be 14 or 15 to enjoy Facebook. You know, you can link into the friends that were with you in college 20 years ago or whatever, you know. But there are dangers in particularly some type of online social media more than others. And that would be ones like Ask.fm. To me, it can be a bully's paradise because you have total anonymity. The person is asking the question. So if I don't like you, I can put whatever hate I have towards you or hostility in the form of a question. And you don't normally find out who I actually am. So it is important that those sites, younger people are introducing them, and to the downside. And the great thing is going around to schools and coming across more and more secondary schools where the younger people themselves are saying to me, why was this site set up in the first place? Surely the people that found it knew what was going to happen, that it was going to become you know, a haven for bullies. I'm getting out of it because I was insulted so much. I myself love the online social media. I will not join Ask.fm because I know somebody somewhere is going to pick on me and humiliate me. You know, I'm not on the web for that.
I suppose just because you've raised the issue of Ask.fm, I know around the time of Aaron Gallagher's death, one of the founders of Ask.fm said the problem of cyberbullying seems to be more to do with Ireland and the UK and the type of young people living there, because it wasn't a problem where they were. Is that kind of just a lame excuse coming from them, trying to not have the blame put on them?
Yeah, they were making out that they were categorising young Irish people and young British people as one and the same, that they said that they didn't have this problem with bullying and humiliation of other people anywhere else in the world. Why should they close down Ask.fm because of the problems in Irish society? You know, I personally don't accept that. I mean, I work with young people in Ireland. I think they're fantastic. Like young people everywhere, they're changing the world. The technologies we're using today are because of young people. I think that is an excuse, in all honesty. It has to be faced up to. You cannot hide behind anonymity, in my humble opinion. I don't care whether you're in Latvia, Lithuania, England or Ireland. There is humiliation going on. There is cyberbullying going on, you know. But because of the prominence of it coming to a head in Ireland, they probably were defensive in terms of the response.
Okay, I suppose finally, Brendan, if you had one final word of advice for anybody out there who has children on the internet, what would be your one tip for them?
Get involved with the young people. Share the web together. Join in online social media. From the inside looking out, you can lay the ground rules. From the outside looking in, you really don't know what you're talking about. So get involved with your young people and enjoy the benefits with them. Set the guidelines at an early age, at a pre-teen age, and then you have the foundation for their future development.
Okay, some very wise words there, and that is where we're going to leave it. I'd like to thank Brendan Smith for joining us tonight to discuss cyberbullying, a very interesting discussion. And that is it for tonight. Thanks a million for watching, fectv.com.